All right, man, just kind of being stupid. That's okay. I wanted to just cycle through a bunch of the sounds that I use and what it means to set up your sounds for the studio versus set up your sounds for playing live, right? They're totally different. They're totally different. And, I honestly wouldn't listen to a lot of people tell you they're the same, There's always exceptions to that statement, right? Like when Petrucci goes for his lead tone, it's his lead tone. When EJ goes for the big thing, it's the big hero tone. However, even in the studio, EJ has been on record for saying how much he will go to the mixing console and kind of nudge some frequencies here and there. So where do you start? What works in a live setting and what works in a studio setting? I recently saw a video with Huff and Bukovac talking about the mid-range and the bright and the cut and getting as much cut as you can live. And it allows you to, slice through the mix. I think that's super valuable on your crunch channels, especially and in-between tones. If you notice that my crunch channels and my in-between tones, they tend to be brighter. Like if we just go no delay, right? If I have this thing kind of, it's like vanilla crunch sound. Right? And then on this like other crunch, it's kind of almost like fake telly sounded. It's kind of got that thing. It's not like having a telly bridge pickup, but it can kind of get that sound. And then again, here's the other crunch. And I've got everything kind of rolling through a universal audio aux for live streaming. I think there's a big thing to say that if anybody hears this, you're going to hear it through YouTube and you're going to hear it through the compression that YouTube's. It's not actually going to be accurate, right? I noticed that YouTube shaves off a lot of top end that is present before it goes out into the the void of the internet. So I'm got my amp set clean. Here's the clean tone of the Sir SL68. Really nice. And then I've got some delay here because we all like delay. Yeah. This is like a sound where I've got a little bit of low end roll off because the amp has so much low end in that it's just beefy. And I use this kind of sound for that sparkly clean thing. This is a great palette for all of the time-based stuff. And when I start working in the studio, let's maybe talk about the studio approach first. And then we'll talk about what makes it translate to live and what you guys can do to help you in both scenarios. In the studio, in a perfect world, you have your favorite cabinet mic'd up. And we're not going to talk about the things that come after the microphones, right? That could be like APIs or Neves or all these mic pre's. We'll talk about everything in front of the microphones. So you have the cabinet working backwards. You have the cabinet, and then whatever effects you have kind of coming out of the board most of the time. This is time-based stuff. Choruses, delays, reverbs, all of that kind of juicy, saucy stuff. And then whatever's in front of the amp. So that's like compressors, boosts, overdrive pedals, maybe even an EQ, like I've got an XTS EQ on here. Here's without the EQ. See how dark it is, like beefy. Now if I add the EQ, it just cleans everything up in that, right? It just sounds nice to me. If I've got some that would still be on for my next channel, which would be like just some boosts, like some blues driver kind of sound. Here's without the EQ, right? Here's with the EQ, right? That's really nice neck pickup too. Here's without it. Like it's really kind of like that, but with the EQ on. So you might be asking why I do it that way. You might not understand what the purpose is. To me, a dark amp does better with overdrive pedals than a bright amp. So I would rather have a dark amp and EQ it bright, and than to have a bright amp with overdrive pedals, right? That's a sweeter sound to me when the overdrive pedals. When the overdrive pedals are working into a dark amp, it just feels better. You're not really fighting any of that harsh, sizzle, painful frequency. And the amps tend to be louder, you know, you kind of have them ripping. And the pedals can be bright, you know, like this is the Pantheon and the treble is at like 3 o'clock. It's got all that nice articulation that I like. And on those neck pickups, it's like throatier and glossier too. You know? Again with the neck pickup. I always find it working better for a sonic application in the studio when the amp is dark and you're bringing in the top end with the overdrive pedals. Okay. It also, to me, maybe I'm crazy, but at least my experience, the success I've had is the amp can, you know, it can kind of rip. Like the amp can get loud and pushed, and all of the internal workings of a tube amplifier can, you know, you can stress the amp in a positive way versus all of that top end with a distortion pedal or an overdrive pedal. You're trying to make it dark. You're trying to make the pedal dark. That never works for me, ever. That never works for me. What always works is getting the amp dark and then adding the top end on my clean channel with an EQ. Right? Especially if I want some of that, you know, goopy that goopy stuff. If I want any of those things. So if I go to maybe some lead stuff. And I also can dig in with the right hand a little bit more on those kind of tones. And as we go across, just keep adding more gas to it. I might have that pedal cranked up a little hotter than I normally would. Yeah, it's nicer right there. That the amp responds so much to the hands when you kind of get it going this way. Also, another thing in the studio that I don't do if I'm tracking, which is print effects. That's rarely something that I do. It has to be a really special effect. Let's talk about this for a second. When you're gonna, maybe track something, you're gonna record in Logic or even GarageBand or whatever. I send the guitar in, completely dry. So the guitar sounds, maybe something like this, whatever that part might be, whatever it might be, it'll be dry like that. And then in whatever recording software that you might want to do, you go in and add your plugins and you have all this liberty to hear your final performance and then mix in your effects at will. Okay, so that's kind of common knowledge. A lot of people know how to do that and do that often. So the question is, well, how do you recreate that in a live scenario? What happens when you want to have that mix option in the live scenario? So this is something that I like to do that I learned from my good friend Andy Timmons, and that is taking the delays and running them obviously after all of your drive pedals. Even if it's in the effects loop of the amp. We'll get to effects loops here in a second. But let's just say you've got a clean amp and you're running your drive pedals, and then your delays and reverbs afterwards. Okay, so for me, I use the Halo. It's simple, and I like that. I had the Strymon stuff, and it's really great, but it can be a bit complicated. The Halo sounds great, and it's simple and kind of bulletproof, which I really like. If something goes wrong, I can just reset it to factory specs, and the first preset's the one that I use. I only have 2 presets on the Halo. So if I want to get back on topic, which I do, we will get into how in a live environment are you able to mix your delays like you would in the studio. And to me, that comes down to having an expression pedal, and I'll show you the one that I like because I actually got another one. This is the Fractal, this is EV2. This is my favorite expression pedal right here. And the EV2, the reason I like it so much, and you won't be able to see this, but the EV2 has a kind of a notched feeling in the sweep of the pedal. Like as I roll it, it notches, and it feels really good. I can like if I just, if I want no delay, it looks like that. It's heel down. That means there's no delay happening. Toe down all the way is like mega super soaker. Like a lot, right? And then when I roll it back to nothing, maybe just start rolling it in like this. There you go. It's just a little bit, right? So I can really feel the sweep. This is my most recommended expression pedal. I love the Mission Engineering and some of those other things, but I have a tendency to wear out the sweep in it, wear out the pot. But these Fractal ones, man, they really do it for me. Right. I think that's the ticket for mixing this stuff live. And like if you've got something that just needs a little bit, I can just roll the foot back. So in that instance, you were able to see how I would function with the sweep of the expression pedal, handling the same patch. Like I didn't go to a different preset or anything. So in a live application, I like to have that as a way that I don't have to make a redundancy of the same patches over and over with more or less delay. Right? You see what I'm saying? I used to do it where I had like, a big Access FX1 and I had all of these presets, and basically they were just all changing the amount of the delay. And I was like, well, man, I just need to be able to do this on the fly. And they got rid of so much tap dancing from me. So then the next evolution is using a switching system. To step on one button and that changed the whole layout of the pedal board versus stepping on every individual pedal, right? Like that doesn't function well in a live environment. Versus, let's talk about studio again. Studio environment, I'm going to probably just use individual pedals like this. Like if I want fuzz, I'm going to find the amp that I want to use, like a diesel or whatever, and I'm going to put this fuzz on it, and that's the only thing in the signal chain. I'm not going to use anything else because I want like it to be pure, right? I want an honest take of the signal chain without having a lot of mess and muck clouding up that signal chain, right? Okay, we're getting some questions here, and I want to get into them. Do we just jump into the Q&A already? Yeah, let's just do that. I think the conversation we have together will kind of lead us towards the right thing, lead us towards some enlightening topics. Okay, this is from Terrace Slippets. So do you have any separate pedal boards for the studio and for live gigs? So no, I don't actually. Let me turn off this second camera. Okay. Live and in the studio, basically what I do is I have multiple boards. So I have a large board that is it's got wah and volume and all these big, physically big controllers on it. And then I've got a medium board, and that medium board doesn't have those controllers. So if I want to use a volume pedal, I have to add that, kind of sitting to the side of the pedal board. And I would just maybe throw that in a backpack. And then I have a small board that fits on a little baby pedal train. And it is a Fractal VP4 and a gearbox and a Wampler bell, I think. I've been trying to talk to Brian into maybe making me an overdrive that was just my settings of the Pantheon in a little mini housing, because I don't need all the things it can do. I just need the ones that I like, right? I've been trying to kind of talk him into that, just to put on that. Not that there's anything wrong with the Bell or the Nobles style overdrives. They're great. I've just got a really good sound out of the Pantheon, right? I don't think they're better or worse. They're just different colors. That's the other thing, is guys get so in their head about like, this is the best. Like, man, there's no best. This Sir SL68 is no better or worse than that Dr. Z. They just do two completely different things. Like, what they sound like is so drastically different. I can't imagine saying one is better than the other. It's like a Les Paul versus a Tele. They're just so different, right? So back to the topic at hand, I don't use different pedal boards for the delay in the studio. What I do is I don't use the time-based stuff in the studio very often. I'll replicate that using a plug-in or something to that effect. So here we go. This is the Get Fiddle says, thoughts on using the Sir reactive load IR instead of miking your amp. This is something I actually was headed to in the conversation. So I've been running for a few years. I've been running a hybrid rig live. I've been playing out a lot. I've been touring a lot. And, when it's time to make the donuts, that doesn't happen at YouTube in the safety of my little domain. Like, this is like, if I have a bad take, I'll just make another take, right? When push comes to shove, you're standing up and you're playing in front of people and you use a guitar strap like that. That's the tail of the tape, in my opinion. That's where you separate. Let me say it like this. Playing live, as Jim Riley would say, that's where the air can get really thin. The air gets thin way up there. So live, one of the things that annoyed me when I would play on a big stage is I thought I saw Sean Tubbs jump in here, and he could probably verify this if he's in here as well. When you play on a big stage, I know he played with Carrie. Yeah, there's Sean. Good to see you, brother. When you play on a big stage, those decks kind of wobble and they kind of shake with the low end, especially with like the subs. They've got the subs up at the front of the stage, whatever. One of the things that I noticed was that if I had a mic, if I was miking up my cabinet on stage, that mic would move throughout the evening. And I'm not saying much, but if you move a microphone this much, like this much, it's like going whoosh. It's like, it's so much, it changes the frequency so much, just baby increment things. So I noticed that these stages would vibrate and my sound would change coming through the PA or the in-ears, right? And so the hybrid rig has been something I've really been into. Originally, it started with the Sir reactive load, and the way I would do it is I would come through the amp into the reactive load and then into the cabinet. So the reactive load is great. Then I went to the UA aux, which I'm using right now, and I really like the software manipulation within the UA aux. It sounds really, really good. The next evolution is the most current iteration of what I'm doing when I have my full rig, when I'm at full capacity and we have formed the gear equivalent of Voltron. What I do is I've got one amp, like a SL68, and then I go out of that into a Reload 2, which splits my signal into stereo, basically like 2 power amps, splits into stereo. And once it's in stereo, the front of house goes to the aux stomp because the Reload 2 has a load on it. So the aux stomp just sees line level. And that's what I put out to front of house. Now, I recently did that big guitar festival in Germany, and there were some guys that have some very trusted ears on that gig. Talking about Martin Miller, Joey Landreth, Andy Timmons, some trusted, very critical ears, and it was real funny. Now, Andy didn't say this to me, but he said it to my guitar tech, John Cooper, and Timmons goes, "Hey man, what's A Wood using over there? It sounds, how's he doing that stereo split?" So I know if was curious, maybe nothing else, maybe he was just curious. That was a big, okay, we're doing something right. If the sensei is curious, then we're doing something right. And I noticed in the cell phone footage people was getting from the jams, the cell phone footage was really good, and it translated in the mix. So on the question of using the Sir reactive load IR instead of miking the amp, I have found that, in a perfect world, you want a 57 and a 121 and the stuff never moves and it's all flawless and nothing ever goes, nothing ever moves. The reality is you move the mic just a little bit and you've lost the percentage of any tonal degradation that you might have got from using a load box to go front of house, because it's perfectly mixed at the front of house, right? Like, that's the thing, is the front of house gets exactly the tone that they want. You can be whatever volume you're at on stage, and it just makes for a better ecosystem. Taras is down here saying that, how good it sounded. Yeah, we played Imagine Love and we played No Quarter with Timmons. Both of those were super, super fun. And Timmons had to be mono that night, and he's also a guy that loves to go stereo, but just due to logistics and stuff, he just had his Mesa Lone Star on a 212 and it was mono. But this Reload 2 is probably, it's probably no bigger than the size of a laptop, kind of, but it's thick. It's about that thick. It's like a 2-rack kind of thing, a 2-space kind of thing, but it's roughly that size. It allows you to do all that stereo splitting without having the muss and fuss of having to carry multiple amps. At that point, front of house gets a stereo signal that's direct, and it is the chef's kiss. I really have had great success, as Borat would say. I've had great success with the sending the direct signal to front of house, where it's just spot on, perfect direct tone to front of house. Really clutch for me. So that is my thoughts on in the live environment. Now, these tools can be great in the studio, and especially if you live in an apartment or you've got or a condo, and you've got to keep the volume down of the amplifiers. These reactive loads will allow you to turn that diesel up as loud as you want it to go, and that's amazing. And then you can record it. So there's a lot to be said, and bang for the buck, I think the Sir one is the best, because it's only like what, $500, $400 or $500, like that's killer. Okay, let's see here. I want to go back to the top of the chat. We're going to roll back to the top of the chat where I was just noodling and hit some questions here. What do you think about fuzz pedals in general? Which types of fuzzes you prefer? I love octafuzzes. You heard me kind of noodle through it a little bit earlier. Here's just without it. Neck pickup, gearbox. Let me give you some delay so it sounds nice. Now if I want that octafuzz thing, I just bring in the G&I. Works great with the Pantheon. Here's the Pantheon without it. And then with it. It's real spitty. It's got a real spitty kind of sound. And it also does that extreme octave twist. When you I used it a lot on the new record with Shoot the Sun Down and Rooster and all those things. So this is a very beloved pedal. The G&I is very beloved, yeah. And it tracks really well when you start playing the fast licks too. So, you know, that's big. With it, yeah, I love it. I'm going to do a fuzz shootout for you guys too. It's going to be rad. So, rolling through the chat here. Do you use the aux cabs? Can you turn them off? The aux? Oh, you have to use the aux cabs. That's what it does. Okay. Just changed my Tele neck pickup and installed a Woodbucker. Super digging it. Thank you. I love it. The Woodbucker is very similar to like if the Wolfgang pickup and the Pearly Gates pickup had a baby, they've got that A2. The aux is not just an attenuator. And here's a hot take. I don't like the aux's attenuation. When you start attenuating, it starts coloring it too much. However, I do like the direct to front of house thing. So I run the aux wide open. There's no attenuation. So that's how I use it. Sean says there's so many variables. In some ways, live versus studio is the same. The sound I loved in the room didn't work in the mix. That's really where it comes to me. Is like, you know, what works live, what works in the studio. You know, the fundamental tone can be relatively the same, but then all of the other ingredients can really change what you need to do, and the room itself can change what you need to do to the tone, right? That's why I like to have those time-based effects on a mix, on an expression pedal. So if the room's super dry, I can floor it and have all that glorious reverb and delay. If it's super bouncy and wet, I can just pull that back. I'm not having to rebuild the space of my rig from a sonic standpoint. That's super valuable to me. Jeremy says the channel's making him a better player. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. Settings, please. Yeah, let me know what you want the settings for. I'll tell you whatever they are, the amp or the pedals or whatever. You know, just let me know what you want and I'll look at it. Is it possible to point the second camera at your pedal board? I'd love to see your settings. Yeah, sure, I can do that. Let me turn on the second camera, which is this one. Okay, let's see if we can do this without knocking everything over and making a horrible mess. Okay, here we go. Going for a ride. So there is the pedal board right there. Let me undo the Velcro on it, and then we could zoom in. I have to zoom in analog, which means hold the camera closer to the board. Here we go. Yeah. So there we go. There's the big controller, right? And then if I move it up, you'll see the overdrive pedals. And then the Strymon is a reverb that I just use like for a gag. Like it's got that like, it's almost like its own, not using it for space. I'm using it for a boingy kind of reverb. There's all the overdrive pedals, you know, that we got on them. Sorry, it's dark. So the VP4 at the end for all kinds of like tremolos and reverbs, not reverbs, tremolos and flangers and pitch shift and stuff like that. Yeah. And then there's the controllers all the way on that side. So here's the whole footprint of the board right there. So it's actually pretty smooth. There's the my foot for scale. So it's not a gigantic item at all. This is the Jerry Cantrell wah, and then I've got the volume pedal right there, and then I've got the expression pedal all the way over on the side. Yeah. So there you have it. Yeah. There you have it. All right. Multiple cameras. Good stuff right there. Turn that thing back off. Boop. All right. Back in here. Andy, will you use reverb only in the studio? Too much reverb will wash you out live. Thoughts? One of the things I like is in a live environment, if I don't use the halo at all and I want something to sound reverby, that's what I use the Strymon for, is like for it to specifically be like a big boingy kind of reverb. You know, if I've got to do. You know, that's really nice for that. I might also use it for some faux slide stuff. For that kind of thing. But again, it's like it can be a lot, you know. It's like a little bit goes a long way. So I don't really use reverb in the sense of adding space. I use it to be like some kind of I'm using it like I would use a pitch shift or a flanger or something. It's just another type of color on the palette. There's like a fundamental tone, and then all my little seasoning colors that I'm going to use. For which purpose do you use the Wampler Bell, and for which is the Pantheon? The Pantheon is like all around crunch, like vanilla crunch. That would also be like what I use for, let's say, Junktown, right? I mean, kick on some, you know, a little bit of... Maybe not that much. Maybe a slapback might be nice. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that might be like that kind of sound. Whereas like the other tones are way more like hero sounding, right? way over the top, right? So, it kind of changes on what I might use. The Bell to me is just a really great Nobles. It's just a really great Nobles ODR1. And it's tiny, and I like that. Rolling down here, running pedals into the darker amp. This is from Sean. Allows for the circuit to sound more open from the pedal. I've found that too. You can let the pedal push all of its information out, versus if it's going into a really bright amp, you're being like, ugh, kind of afraid of some of that ice pick, right? Okay, any sound guy would generally prefer a darker amp too, in my experience. Plus, competing with cymbals and stuff, the higher end is just kind of eating up. Now, here's the thing. It really depends on what you're doing, because it's really nice to have a lot of top end information if you've got a very trusted sound guy. That's nice. When you work with guys that you've never worked with before, that's where it gets kind of like, ugh, I don't know what this guy's going to do to me. But if you can trust your front of house guy, it goes back to what Bukovac was saying with Walsh. It's like, it's just bright as all get out. But front of house could take care of it, right? It's all kind of situational. Yeah, Jeremy's saying he felt that way about dark amps too. Yeah, it's like get an amp dark, and then the pedal can be, bright, and you can mix it up. That's what Gearbox was designed for guys not really familiar with the pedal. I worked on that with Brian Wampler, and the Gearbox was meant to be like, if I only have one pedal and I get a Fender Twin or a JCM 900, like no matter what I'm handed, if I have the Gearbox, I can make it work. It does a lot of different things and a lot of different tonalities, and I run the mids pretty, down pretty low. All right. Does anybody remember Rocktron Egnator TOL 100 amp? Was that the one you could unplug the modules that essentially kind of turned into a Synergy? A lot of fans that were talking about the Lightspeed overdrive. So again, we're kind of dealing in to pedal territory specifically, and I don't want this episode to get off topic of like studio versus live. I mean, there's a lot of this mentality can be with just gained out amps, like just pushed amplifiers, like 5150 or that Bogner or something too, right? It's just kind of realizing that, one of my number one enemies live, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about the approach of a gained out amplifier versus pedals. I would use something with an effects loop like that, Diesel typically in the past, and run my effects in that. However, in current situation with Reload 2, it has a stereo effects loop. What's beautiful about that is now your effects are after the power section. Typically, your effects in an effects loop are after the preamp section. And this is where your delay and reverb live, and then it goes to your power section. In the Reload 2, you come out of the amplifier speaker out into Reload 2. So now this is the pure sound of your amplifier. Reload 2 is going to take that and split it in half and send it to your cabinets, not altering the core tone. This is an interesting thing that I've seen is some guys online being like, oh, Reload 2 isn't tube. I don't want it to be tube. I want it to be the pure sound of my tube amp. Just pure, clean, Class D, not changing my amplifier, right? I just want it to take my amplifier and cut it in half and send it to my speakers. Now, at this point, I have stereo effects post my amp's power section. It's really important for like maybe that old Marshall up there sitting on the EJ Marshall, or it's really important for maybe a Fender Princeton that you want to have the effects after the whole thing, right? So that's been a very valuable tool for me that I only use live. I'm not going to use that in the studio. I'm only going to do that live. So, that's, once you're in the studio, you come out of your amp and split it however you want it, all your delays and stuff are post, right? Because that's the only reason you want to split it. That's just my opinion. What are you using to replicate the Halo sound with a plug-in? I find that to be pretty specific. It is, and there's some guys here in Knoxville in East Tennessee, the Waves guys, and we've been experimenting with something. So that's all I'll say. The Waves guys have been able to go into their algorithm and manipulate it. It's not something that's for sale. I don't ever intend it to be for sale because that's very much a Keeley, Andy Timmons thing. And I don't want to have any conflict of interest there. But it is neat to have a plugin that can assimilate that algorithm, very much like maybe the Fractal can. But even in the studio, guys, you got to remember, you don't have to use a plugin. You can send out from your console through the pedal, go back in left and right, you know. Yeah. So let's just hit a couple more questions here. Talking about, yeah, having another secondary guitarist. Yep, that's a thing for sure. Let's hit some more. Let me hit some more questions. Do you have separate pedal boards for studio? That's where we got previously. While I'm looking for questions, you know, as always, if you love the channel, think about supporting it over on Patreon. Appreciate those guys. I always post up different lessons and sneak peeks and all that kind of stuff to those guys first and foremost. We have about 600, 700 posts on there that are video content, lessons, and all that stuff. We also do a weekly live masterclass. It's a lot of fun. It's done on Zoom, and it's great. It really is a lot of fun. Look forward to it every week. We're going to do it tomorrow night. So that's at patreon.com/AndyWoodMusic. Okay. Do you prefer American voiced amps like the Bella and British voiced ones for overdriven tones? I fancy British amps for cleans lately. I like both. You are specific when you say the Sir SL15. I like 100-watt amps. That's me. I like big power sections. I think they sound good. Yeah. Okay, hot take. Dave Friedman said stereo rigs are pointless unless in the context of a one guitar band like Van Halen. I think stereo guitar rigs are amazing if it's in the right context. I think Dave was probably meaning like going out and like jamming at the local bar or whatever. Stereo rigs are great. Like once you hear it in stereo, it's just hard to go back, you know, especially in in-ears and stuff. Here we go. Been playing more than 50 and want to quit now. I want to shed more when I see it. Cheers, man. Nick, I'm using the SL68 JS Honfei. I'm using the 68, not the 67. Couple more questions. Annie, any opinion on ideal speakers for the wet in a wet, dry, wet setups? 3 412s. I use 4 greenbacks in my dry cabinet. Looking to have ideal. What was it? Looking to have ideal. I'm sorry, my mouse got over. Looking for ideal cleans, but still do higher gain stuff. Man, I tell you, I'm going to do a speaker shootout later this month. I've got greenbacks, vintage 30s, 65s, and redbacks. So give me a month to kind of come back to this. In a wet, dry, wet environment, I like to have all 3 speakers the same. That's just me. That's how Ed did it. That's how I like to do it. It sounds good like that. I don't like these having a different EQ curve than this. So if you're going to use greenbacks in the dry, I would use greenbacks on the outside too. That's just my opinion. Going to buy the FM9 pretty soon, main live purposes. Okay. With the FM9 in a live environment, and I haven't got it yet, but I've got it on the way, is the stereo, it's a stereo power amp made by Seymour Duncan. And it's no bigger than maybe this, a 6x6 and a couple inches tall. And I'm going to be using that with an FM9. That way that can go to the cabinets and then the FM9 can go to front of house. I'll report back on how that works, but that's something you should really look into. Do you ever use pure amp drive tone? Yeah, for sure. all the time. I mean, you're not going to have a diesel and leave it on the clean channel. That's just, I was like, it's never going to happen. So, yeah. Andy Wood Patreon exclusive. Yeah. Yeah. We do that live masterclass. It's really good. Candyman 21. Can we get a super quick Master Gracie tapping lick? Man, you guys are wanting the complicated stuff for free. That's okay. We'll do it. Here it is. Who is this that wants this lick? Where was that? The tapping lick? The Candyman 21. All right, Candyman 21. You're going to get this lick for free, and you need to thank the Patreon supporters because of them, we can do stuff like this. All right, here we go. The tapping lick in Master Gracie is a series of arpeggios. I'm going to turn the delay down. All right. So this is in the section towards the end of the song. How was it? It's after this stuff, right? Kind of turn that down a little bit. Try to get my setting right. Okay, yeah. So when we have this, we're going to go from E flat. That's your chord changes right there for the tapping lick. That's E flat, B flat, F, G minor, there's your D7. So here comes the tapping lick. That's the main, that's how it like it kind of flutters around. So it's outlining this Jessica kind of shape. Right, it's like that shape, like the D shape. We're in E flat, so. And this is where a 24 fret guitar is super handy. Now, once we get to the top of it, we're going to come down in this sequence. So it's root, 5, 3, root, 5, 3, root. There you go. That's how it sounds like at tempo. And try to get it nice and crispy clean if you can. And we'll continue down. Now we're going to go to the B flat, right? So we have the E flat. Yeah, so we go from the root to the 5 of B flat. Do I do it? Do I go to the third or not? Yeah, I don't go down to this third. I don't go down there, sorry. Now we're going to go F. We're going to have this repeating pattern. We're going to have that outlining an F7. I think it's... And then G minor. What was I thinking? It's crazy. So the G minors. Right? Let's kind of hear it in context. How about that? Let me bring up the backing track real quick, and we can take a look at how this sits on it. So let's take that section again. You can hear it in time. Better. Yeah. Ta-da! Right, that's how you do it. So, E flat, it's E flat, B flat. And you got to be careful not to rush it. Like you notice when I first played it without warming up, I rushed it. You got to kind of take your time with it, even though it's easy to get it too fast. This is the hardest lick in the song, though. This one. That one. That's the hardest one in the song. It's got all this like hyper alternate picking hybrid stuff. That's the one that's just like, I'm dreading it the whole time we're playing it. But yeah, so if you feel so inclined to go thank those Patreon members, this guy says you could just use your ears and just learn it. Wow, yikes! It's getting lethal in here. A little gatekeeping there. the old Woodshed chat today. You could just use your ears and learn it. I like that. Maybe that needs to be on a T-shirt. You could just use your ears and love it. Dave Lavello tried out the 13s and it's rocking. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay. And he also says he has a Seymour Duncan stereo 100 watt and it works great. Nice. Very cool. Any opinions on greenbacks versus creambacks? Not really. I haven't had those, but I do like the 65s better than greenbacks. I don't pick quite as many of those notes as Andy, but I can do it in time some of the time. So you need to pick them all if you want it to have the right articulation. That's my opinion. Like when things aren't picked, they don't sound right to me. That's what makes that part sound good, in my opinion, is that it's picked. Like, I don't know. I mean, everybody's different in what they like in the guitar, and that's cool. I don't like sloppy playing. I don't like it. Like, I like really clean, precise playing. I don't like it when guys just flop their hands around at nothing. I hope they're having the best time. I hope those guys are having more fun with the instrument than I will ever have. I just don't want to hear it. I like really, guys like Sean Tubbs. I mean, Sean Tubbs like a jet fighter, man. It's just real. He's got that greasy thing, but everything's real with intent and it's precise. Dan Huff, EJ. I mean, my guys are all articulate. I like Timmons is articulate. George Benson's articulate. Mason, hyper, almost like AI level articulate as Brent. I mean, that's what I like. And so when things get smushy and smeary, it's just a flavor that's good for other folks. I like the more precise stuff. That's what I'm really into. I learned a lot of Steve Vai and Satriani back in the day, but Andy's a beast. Oh, thanks, man. You know, I learned a lot of Steve Vai and Satriani too. Cole Dove is saying, which song is this? This is Master Gracie's Manor, and last week for Halloween I posted a Master Gracie's Manor lesson, so you can have access to that. I don't teach the tapping stuff. Yeah. Sound all those notes out. Yeah, sound those notes out, boy. Can confirm. I cheesed my way through it. Oh, that's good. No, it's, Tom Quayle's articulate. Martin's, yeah, the guys are articulate. Tom's got a nice legato because it sounds punchy. A lot of guys' legato, it doesn't sound punchy. Tom's does. One more time on that so you guys can have it. Let's do... try getting it in sections. See what I mean by that? Now I go. Right? Like that's a whole. Now I took a baby section and combine it with the other half of that baby section. What I have? Yeah. Right. That's the whole thing. Now I go to B flat and try it, right? One more time. Like I'm looking for that laser-like, Zorro-like precision when I'm trying to play it. Even when you play it fast, that low note, it's got a little whoomp to it that I like. Whoomp. You hear it like whoop, whoop, like. Right? Right. That's like I learned a lot of that Guthrie stuff. So like, that kind of helped me get used to playing broader, wider arpeggios on the guitar and string skipping. And also when you have no delay or anything, it's nice. You can really hear the articulation, nothing to hide behind. There we go. Sloppy. That tempo's a little too adventurous, truthfully. But yeah, that's really what's going through my head when I'm trying to play that section of music, and that's always a finger twister live. So, I like to have moments in the show where I've got to be like, all right, we gotta really do it. It makes me practice. So with that said, live shows coming up. 2 left. I think we got 2 left in the year. We got outside of a couple of fun me and Ben Eller skank banger gigs. We've got a couple of fun ones like that lined up. They don't really count. But we've got one in Dallas next weekend with Gary LaVox. And then I'm headlining, it's my celebration dance, headlining the beautiful Bijou Theater here in East Tennessee. And that is December 12th. Having a good time doing that. We're going to be having a great band. And so if you're interested in catching a live show, catch me out on the road, any of that tour type stuff, or maybe you just want to get a awesome t-shirt with the free range chicken on it, we got that at andywoodmusic.com. And again, if you want to be a part of our community, it is a great community. We got a private Discord server for our members, and we do a weekly live Zoom masterclass. You can even get one-on-one lessons. That's all at patreon.com/AndyWoodMusic, and that's what keeps the lights turned on here in the shed. Thank you guys. I appreciate you so much. We'll see you out on the road, and then in Dallas, and then after that we're going to be in the shed for the rest of the year for a little home relaxation in the down months, and I'm looking forward to it. I've worked like a dog this year. It's been awesome though. It's been total #blessed. I have a box over here with some Sir accoutrements that I'm going to open up that you guys might see at NAMM. So leave you wanting more, right? All right, guys, be blessed. Everyone have a great week, and we'll see you Patreon members tomorrow night.